Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Harvey. I've got another book for you today. It's called Extra Yarn. It's a new one we got right before we were out of school, and it's by Barnett, and it's illustrated by John Clausen. They do a lot of books together, and I thought of reading this book because I read a book about yarn earlier in the week. It was Knit Your Bit, so this kind of goes together. Extra Yarn. You can see the yarn starting off. First of all, look at the pictures. Do you notice anything about the pictures? Are they very colorful? They're kind of dark, aren't they? Reminds me a little bit like today because it's cloudy and it's kind of cold and rainy. On a cold afternoon in a cold little town where everywhere you looked was either the white of snow or the black of soot from the chimneys, Annabelle found a box filled with yarn of every color. So there's her character, there's Annabelle. She went home and knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. Now what do you notice about the sweater? That's right, it's colorful. Everything else is still kind of black and white. So she knit a sweater for Mars too. But there was still extra yarn. And when Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed and said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. Look how colorful Annabelle and Mars are in this dark black and white world. But it turned out he was. So what do you think happened? Annabelle made Nate and his dog sweaters with the extra yarn. And even after she'd made a sweater for Nate and his dog, and for herself, and for Mars, she still had extra yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet!" shouted Mr. Norman. Now you can see all of her classmates at school. That doesn't look like our pretty, colorful classrooms at Harp, does it? "Quiet, everyone! Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." "Then I'll knit one for everyone," Annabelle said, "so they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. Do you think she can knit a sweater for everyone in her class? That would be a lot of extra yarn, wouldn't it? But it turned out she could. And she did. Even for Mr. Norman. Do you notice something? She didn't cut the yarn. Those colorful sweaters kind of connect them. They have something in common now. So she knit sweaters for her mom and dad, and for Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Louie, She made sweaters for everyone except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants, and who would stand in his shorts with the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks," said Mr. Crabtree. Y'all, I'm not real sure about Mr. Crabtree. Oh, but look what she made him. Instead of a sweater, he gets a hat. So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat. And even then, Annabelle still had, what do you think? Extra yarn. There's a lot of yarn in that box. She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and for all the animals too. Soon, people thought, soon, Annabelle will run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. The mailbox has a hat or a coat or whatever it is mailboxes wear. And the birdhouse. And a regular house. And a... oh, that's a window in the house. I thought it was a teepee for a minute. So Annabelle made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. Things began to change in that little town. Doesn't it look different from the first pictures when they were so dark? It's kind of pretty now with all the colors. News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came to visit from around the world to see all the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke who was very fond of clothes sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. "Little girl," said the archduke, "I would like to buy that miraculous box of yarn, and I'm willing to offer you $1 million. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. The archduke's mustache twitched. $2 million, he said. Annabelle shook her head. "No, thanks." $10 million, shouted the archduke. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she didn't. So, that night, the archduke hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house, and they stole the box and took it to the archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. See if it snuck in. Back to his castle. The archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his best chair. Then he took out the box and he lifted its lid and he looked inside. Okay, make a prediction right now. Predict what's going to happen when he opens the box. What do you think will be there? You ready? Did you predict that? His mustache quivered. It shivered. It trembled. The archduke hurled the box out the window and shouted, "Little girl, I curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." But and it washed ashore. There she is back in her town. She still has her sweater. Her town still has the sweater she knitted. It turned out she was Did she need that yarn to be happy? I think she was just happy with everything she had made. This last picture. So I was going to show you a few things that you can do with extra yarn. Several years ago, my mom taught me how to knit. I didn't get very good. I could just knit a straight line, but I made a scarf. It wasn't too hard, and I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to put it up on the Harp virtual library, but it's a way you can use extra yarn if you have any, and you can start knitting at home. This is a little loom that I'm going to show you guys how to make, and it's just with stuff that you might have lying around the house, and it's kind of fun. That's just a simple way that you can use extra yarn at your house. And I'm going to show you some more activities too. So go to the Harp page, which if you're seeing the story, you're probably already there. Check on the virtual library and watch for some crafts and ideas. All right, guys, I miss you. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.